Hello and welcome to All For United. It's Ben here and we are back with another episode of the United Daily. As ever, just want to pull you guys, if you're on any other platform apart from our YouTube channel, to come over and subscribe to our fantastic Red community over on YouTube. And you can win some great prizes too by being there. YouTube.com/All For United. Come over and subscribe. It's our Wednesday show, which means as ever, we're joined by Stretty News' Dale O'Donnell. Dale, how are you doing? Was it as boring or was it more enthralling putting together the post-match report last night than actually watching the game? What did you make of that last night, Dale?
Yeah, it was a dull affair. There's no denying that. But United got the job done, and there was never any stage throughout the game where I had any doubts because West Ham were very negative. I think that was the biggest question I had after the game, because they've shown this season, without some of their players last night, that they can play football. And they did the same thing against Liverpool, where they sat back and didn't really go at them. And Liverpool won that game 3-1. I just thought it was a very comfortable game for United. We didn't really pull up many trees or set the world alight. We didn't show enough urgency, I would say. But West Ham didn't add any pressure to our game, and we got the job done. Into the next round, quarterfinals, here we come.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. In a cup run, you're always going to have a couple of just really weird games. And last night felt like that really weird game. I tweeted before, this is what the FA Cup's all about. Home to West Ham United. They're games which usually see goals, a game which could see an upset. So you know that your team has to be on the front foot, has to be positive. And before the show, we done a tactical preview on yesterday morning, Dale. And we're all expecting a very positive West Ham United to come to Old Trafford and stick it to us. And it just didn't happen till the second half. It was all us in that first half. But as I tweeted at half time, dominance doesn't pay off unless you make it pay. And we just didn't at all during the game. We couldn't create the chances. We didn't get a good enough foothold to be able to say that we actually deserve to be in front. So yeah, very weird. Guys, get in the comments, get in the live chat. Let us know what you think. Of course, after the game, what we like to do is a Twitter react show. So what we do is we react to tweets that are reacting to the game. We don't use the tweets to sound off about the users or their thoughts or dismiss their opinion. We use the tweets to sort of kickstart our thoughts and to kickstart the conversation on certain talking points that happened last night. And I want to start with sort of what we were speaking about, actually, Dale, and that's with this tweet here. I mentioned it was a dull affair. I mentioned it was boring. So, of course, the ever famous on Twitter, someone who we would have seen or you've all seen tweeting, totally Man United. Full-time 1-0. Well, thank God it's over. It was one of the most boring matches I've seen in a long time. Got the win and on to the next round. Two questions for you within this, Dale. Was it one of the most boring matches you've seen, especially under Ollie at United? And is that all that matters, getting into the next round?
Yeah, I guess it was a boring game. I wouldn't go as far as say it was the most boring, because, it's fine margins when you're going comparing those kind of games. But yeah, the ultimate aim was to get into the next round. United got that job done. And I think maybe Solskjaer would have expected that kind of performance or approach from West Ham. You said you were surprised, and I guess most people would be. But if you cast your mind back to when David Moyes managed Manchester United, yeah, it's not all that surprising that he would go into a game like that and not really go for it. Like I can't really get my head around that, because this was a cup game. He didn't have to worry about dropping points because West Ham are doing really well in the Premier League this season. So it was an opportunity for him to kind of let some players off the shackles, and he didn't do that. But I'm not really surprised. Not surprised at all.
I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because even Jermaine Gina said it in commentary last night, which was quite interesting. Obviously, in a cup game, does it really matter if you lose 1-0 or 5-0? You've got to give it a go. It's cup competition. It's knockout football. If you're 1-0 down, surely you've got to put everything on the line, Dale, and go for it.
Yeah, why not? In the last few minutes, extra time. This is where a manager can change a game. And we kind of probably seen it against Leipzig in the Champions League in the last maybe 20 minutes. We were all saying, look, we really need to get something here. Probably slim chances, but we need to throw the kitchen sink at them, and that didn't really happen. So yeah, it's baffling when managers do that in a cup competition. West Ham could have really went for it a bit more last night, and they didn't.
Yeah, 100%. Hello, by the way, to Keen and Shane, who are already in the live chat. If you want to shout out, get in our live chat on YouTube, youtube.com/all4united, and get in the live chat and discuss what we're talking about as well. I want to move on to a new tweet now that is still around the game last night, but I think it allows us to sort of enhance on perspective a little bit more, and talk a little bit about how actually we performed. MUFC AH here says, we came alive in extra time and wasted multiple opportunities to kill the game in the process, but the first 90 minutes might be, as we've mentioned, the most boring of the Ollie era, which doesn't completely agree with, but still we can understand why. It was an absolute snooze fest. The win and clean sheet makes it worth it. Like, our man of the match was Tellez, but Dawson and Johnson were great for West Ham. I think when we talk about the game being boring and so to speak, potentially having a look at how we contributed to that, we've also got to remember it takes two to tango, and West Ham never turned up last night. They weren't interested, especially in that first half, in having the ball, in putting together more than 4 passes. They were just happy to contain us until they could use their bench and see if someone like Ben Rama could just poach a goal and win them the game. In the end, it was us who poached a goal and won the game. Dale, what did you make of us in extra time? And what were your thoughts at the end of the 90 when we knew we had an extra 30 minutes of football to play?
Well, I was thinking another extra 30 minutes of this. How am I going to stay awake? But the thing about the forwards was as well is in extra time, the big difference in their performance was for 90 minutes, we kind of passed the ball sideways a lot. And there was a lot of times where I was shouting at the TV, shoot, shoot, shoot. And we passed on those opportunities. Whereas when Bruno Fernandes and Scott McTominay came off the bench, it changed the dynamic of the team a small bit. And you see more chances from outside the box, more opportunities on goal. Bruno sent one over the bar, but United had changed their approach, and I think for the better. And that, look at McTominay's goal, it's a sheer example of that. He arrives into the box the perfect time, like every top midfielder does, and he strikes the ball so cleanly into the back of the net. It's one thing that he has. He seems to have a crisp when he hits the ball. He just, Solskjaer mentioned that he was previously a striker in the U team, and you can see that. So we need to get him into the box more often. But that was the main difference for me when we got that goal, was that we were actually having more opportunities on goal. We weren't trying to pass the ball into the back of the net. Like there was countless times last night, and it's a fault in his performances of late. It's Marcus Rashford. He seems to run into traffic a lot when there is a better pass on. And I know we're trying to pass the ball into the back of the net, but there are opportunities with players in positions in space that they should be shooting more often.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And also, as you said, with Marcus Rashford on the ball, and we might even get to a tweet to that later, that moment when he manages to dribble past 50 football players on the pitch and score that amazing goal, it could be worth the amount of times that we're finding extremely painful now, where he just tries to take on one too many or do too much with the ball. Something that was mentioned, Dale, and a bit of feedback from you, we've not got a tweet for it, but I put up a tweet about this last night. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is probably the only person in the world who would have taken off Greenwood instead of Rashford last night to bring on Cavani. I thought Greenwood was having a really, really good game, although maybe he slightly outgassed himself at that point, and he was slightly quiet in that second half. But I also think that was because he was doing a defensive job on Johnson, which shows how much more of an all-rounded player Mason Greenwood is turning into, playing on that right-hand side, and his work rate and energy that he's starting to show. Do you think Marcus Rashford repaid Ollie's trust there in keeping him on? He got the assist, and what did you make of him last night?
Yeah, of course, 100% he repaid him, and I thought you were going to ask me if it was a mistake in taking off Greenwood instead. Most weeks I'd probably say Greenwood should be kept on a bit longer than Martial. I think Greenwood, in terms of being around the box, if he gets the ball in a good position, I always fancy him to score. So I think that he should be given more time on the pitch. But Marcus Rashford isn't the one I'd be taking off either, because anything can happen when he's on the pitch. He could have 85 minutes of running into traffic, and in the last 5, he can cause absolute havoc. So he's one of our main players, and I know he's going through a tough time right now. I think he's played through a lot of niggles. I know he's had shoulder problems and he's played through them, and I don't think that helps. It doesn't help during the season, Ben, when there's lots of fixtures congested. This is a tough time for all footballers, and we will have games. It could be the next game against West Brom where we perform atrociously again. And that could be down to the players being tired. And next week they could be better. It's one of those seasons, and we have to accept that. What we really need is Marcus Rashford to start hitting the back of the net. And we need Edison Cavani and Martial and Greenwood and others chipping in. It's fantastic that McTominay has added that to his game. It's very important. If you want to win games, you need to score goals. But if we can get our forwards doing that, we can get away with a few bad performances. But until that, it's a worry. It's a real concern.
I know many people have mentioned it, but I am concerned, but also sure that Marcus Rashford's playing with a broken back. Just from that injury that he sustained last year. And that doesn't heal quickly. Footballers have to play on with injuries like that, because otherwise, if you take time out for that to heal, it could take a year and a half. So he has to play with it. He has to play through the pain. And I think the biggest giveaway that is potentially starting now to heal slightly is that he's starting to compete for headers. There was a point where he wouldn't even jump to compete with a header. And I sorry to swear, I shit myself last night when he got that knee in the back, because I thought, do you know what? If that back is still badly damaged, that's going to push him back massively. He really suffered from that back injury. And I believe that he is actually still struggling with that back, and it's going to take a lot of time to heal. And as you mentioned there, with the fixture congestion, he hasn't got the opportunity for it to heal. You know, it's going to be a manic summer again. As far as we know, we're going to have another Champions League or Europa League potential competition at some point, maybe, with the way that the fixtures are being arranged, and the Euros. It's going to be hectic again.
The one thing as well, Ben, is I see a lot of people mention, Solskjaer should rest them, should use this game to rest them, and this and that. No. I just don't think that's something that as fans we should be worried about. At the end of the day, what we should be worried about is Manchester United winning football matches, and that's what Solskjaer is worried about. If it's a case that Marcus Rashford can play on with a slight niggle, Solskjaer's going to take that risk, because and there's no time for resting these guys. Like, you have to win football matches. We're near the top of the table. We're second in the league. We're in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. We're also still in the Europa League. What do fans want us to drop points in any position, in any of these competitions, or get knocked out? I don't think so. I don't worry about players being rested, because I have enough to worry about. We all have our own things in life that we need to worry about. But Manchester United winning at the weekend or during the week, that kind of makes my week. That makes me happy. So I'm not worried about resting players. I think Man United are better with Marcus Rashford, so play him.
I completely 100% agree. And I also agree with your comment on that he can be responsible for that moment. And he can make a team click within just one second. This is what frustrated me, Dale. I don't know if you remember, digressing slightly, just before the halftime whistle, United, for whatever reason, decided that instead of trying to look to create that moment just before the whistle, it's only like 25 seconds left, don't get me wrong, we decided to walk with the ball and pass it square and wait for the whistle. And in my head, and just someone who loves football, I'm just thinking, punt it outfield, get it in the box. You've got 20 seconds. It takes a moment to score a goal. You get a goal before half time, it's a completely different second half. I don't understand that mentality sometimes. I get it in the final couple of minutes of games, but just before half time, what are you walking with a football for? We've got players who can create special moments within a fraction of a second. You've got to feed those forward players, no matter what time it is, how long is left on the clock. You've just got to go for it. So yeah, it's slightly confusing for me. Let's go on to this. We spoke about it and you hit on it a couple of times. Mr. McToms. Scott McTominay, goal-scoring midfielder, our answer to Paul Scholes. The next... Do you know who he reminds me of at the moment? He reminds me of Frank Lampard. The way he gets around the middle of the pitch, he can win the ball back, he can score goals, the way he arrives late in the box. Last night, that goal reminded me of a Frank Lampard goal that he would score 15 times a season. Just let's start, before we talk about his performance last night and the impact he made, Dale. What have you made of his progress? Not just this season, but last season as well.
Oh, I love him. Last season, that's when he became one of the more influential players in the team. And this season, I think he's added more quality to his game. And I think that's only going to get better and better and better. It's the guy who when he was in the academy, he wasn't always the tallest. He was 5'10", and he shot up during the summer, and the club couldn't believe it. I think that's what we're seeing right now, in a sense, not of height, but as a footballer. His development is happening so quick. And this is a player I'm really excited about even for next season. He's adding goals to his game now, and he's a big unit. He's not a player that other teams like playing against. And the one thing I want to pick up about this tweet, Ben, is don't ever badmouth the lad again. Who's ever badmouthed McTominay? Because he's someone that, like, I understand what the tweet is getting at, because some people they still kind of badmouth him because he's not the big name. He's not a Ronaldinho, okay? But if you can't see what he's bringing to the team, or if you can't take glory or bask in the glory of his development, as a Man United fan, there's something wrong with you.
Let me ask you, Dale, do you win a Premier League title with Scott McTominay at the heart of your midfield?
Yeah, why not? Liverpool won Premier League last season with Jordan Henderson in the heart of midfield.
Is he better than Henderson?
I wouldn't say better than Henderson right now, but what I'm saying is, can you imagine saying Henderson? Yeah, could you imagine saying that Jordan Henderson was going to captain Liverpool and be a focal part of their midfield and win a league title after 30 years? If you said that 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, people would have laughed in your face. What I'm saying is, you don't have to have a team of Galacticos to win a Premier League. Scott McTominay, what it comes down to is a player's role in a team. And if his role is sufficient enough to start a game, that's why he starts. And Alex Ferguson never had that kind of snobbery when it came to footballers. You look at our best teams under Ferguson, it had all sorts of players in it. You know, it had Darren Fletcher's, Park Ji-sung. What came down to was that player's role. And in the big games, if that player could fulfill his role, Scott McTominay has proven he can do that in the last 2 years. So I have no question marks over whether United could win a league with Scott McTominay in midfield. Of course they could, because the one thing he has that not all other players have is a bit of heart. It definitely win a league title. Definitely win a league title with Scott McTominay in your team. Definitely.
Do you know what I think it is with Scott McTominay is we've actually now got to a point where we've managed to move out what we would call maybe the deadwood within the club, the players who are not good enough to get in the squad, who have occupied squad places for so long, that now people are starting to look at our current squad and look at players and think of where we need to shoehorn in potential world-class talent or improvements. And I think that's where question marks are going to be raised around Martial now, who needs to start getting some consistency and performing. And I think that is why people are starting to do that. But I also think potentially that's why people are saying that with Scott McTominay, because I think it's that people are looking at this United team and thinking, well, if we're going to bring in a world-class central midfielder to play alongside Pogba and Bruno, who's a player to move out? Who's a player to become a squad player? And I think it's that Jesse Lingard argument all the time that people used to have. You can win Premier League titles with Jesse Lingard in your squad, but not in your first 11. And I feel like that's what Amy's getting at in this tweet, is that people who talk about Scott McTominay being a good squad player, but potentially not that brilliant starting 11 player. And what I say to those people is, McTominay's not at the height of his ceiling yet. Nowhere near. He can still improve massively. And who has he got at that football club to bounce off of and improve off of? He's got Michael Carrick now and Darren Fletcher, plus a fantastic coach in McKenna and a winner and a leader in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. If any four people are going to develop McTominay, and we've already seen it, Dale, with the improvements he's made going forward, and also his stability as well in the side. I feel like he brings a sense of stability to the side. He isn't afraid to play a forward pass too. If he keeps on, like you said there, quickly developing, like you mentioned, his ceiling's so high. He can get so much better.
The other thing as well is, like, I remember those kind of things about Jesse Lingard. And again, why can't you win a Premier League with Jesse Lingard in your squad? You know, you could. Of course you could.
In your squad, starting though, being your out and out left winger or your out and out right winger or your number. That's the point I was trying to make. So if that got confused,
maybe not, but I would say it's possible. I would say, of course, it's possible. He doesn't have to be the main player of that starting team. The point I'm going to make is, as Manchester United fans, we know how silly it is to write off players from the academy, because remember what Mark Lawrence did it? You don't win nothing with kids, okay? It's the same old boring argument and it's snobbery, because McTominay didn't cost 30 million and wasn't signed from the Real Madrid academy. He came through the Manchester United academy. And I think some Manchester United fans need to remember it's quite a good academy. You look at the players we've developed and the young players that are coming through right now. No problem with that academy. Scott McTominay is to me is a proper example to some of those young lads that are in the academy now. That's what you want to become, a good professional, someone who is dedicated and says the right things, but also doesn't just say the right things, but he backs it up. He backs it up every week. He might not play well every week, but you know you're going to get 10 out of 10 in terms of effort.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. That's a fantastic point. And I'm just putting out a tweet saying if McTominay was called McTomaldo and he came from the Madrid Academy, he'd be much highly rated than he is now. And I think that's absolutely spot on, that, Dale. Let's go to a few more tweets, and these are all going to be around one footballer.
Sorry. It was Alan Hansen. Someone commented, not Mark Lawrenson.
Oh, apologies. There we go. Fair enough. Hello to Julie. Hello to Jacob. Hello to Brendan as well. Hello to Pete and everyone who's in the live chat over on our YouTube channel. If you're not, come over and join us this lunchtime. youtube.com/AllForUnited and smash that subscribe button whilst you're there. We're so close to 2.2k now. Your subscribe and like on the video means an awful lot to our growth, and just bringing that community of Reds together to be able to have conversations like this. It's great. Dale, the next player that I want to talk about, and the next player that got the biggest reaction, I think, on Twitter last night was, can you guess?
Van de Beek.
Yes, Donny van de Beek. I want to come to this tweet first. Alexei, who's a fantastic Red. He does some YouTube stuff as well. We tweet him a lot and he retweets our stuff. Fabinho took months to break into the first team at Liverpool. Cancelo took a year to break into Man City's team. Ferran Torres is being eased in at City and has actually played less games than Van de Beek. Van de Beek's time will come. I suppose he's just trying to paint that picture there in terms of the people who are shouting that Van de Beek doesn't look quality, doesn't look like he's up for it at United or wants to be there, whatever. What did you make of Van de Beek last night, first of all? Not good. Really?
Before I get started, I just want to say I totally agree with that tweet. Ferran Torres being eased in at City, that's what I see with Van de Beek, and I don't see anything more or anything less than that. The media have been pointing fingers at Solskjaer, asking him constantly questions about not starting him. They haven't been asking Pep Guardiola the same questions about Ferran Torres. Now, I don't have the amount of games they play compared in front of me, but it's the same situation, and Solskjaer's been consistent about that. Last night was an opportunity for Donny van de Beek. He didn't take it, I don't think, and I get onto that. But I don't think it should be his last opportunity because I've seen enough of him in a United shirt to show that he's a very, very technically gifted footballer. And I think that with time, like other players, Fabinho, as mentioned in that tweet, he could settle in to the team. But the point I want to make is he has not shown, Ben, that Solskjaer should be starting him. And that was an opportunity last night. I thought the pace of the game looked beyond him. I don't think he's up to the pace of the game yet. But it wasn't a good performance. But I'm definitely not saying that he's not good enough or that we shouldn't give him more opportunities. Of course we should, because Solskjaer is easing him in. It's no more than that.
Yeah, we'll talk around the tweet in a second. I know you've hit on this slightly. I'll give my thoughts on Van de Beek last night. I don't think he was, and I'm going to slightly disagree with you here, Dale, slightly, although I completely take everything you've just said and completely 100% respect it, as I always do. I don't think he's as bad as what people made out last night. I think the problem with Donny van de Beek is he comes from such a disciplined background. With Ajax, that academy is so disciplined. You get taught how to play football. You get taught how to execute your role within that team. At Ajax, he played a lot at 8. He played a lot at 10. He can sort of play all over the park, but it's a completely different league, and the physicality is just is a world beyond in the Premier League than the Dutch league. And the job you have to do around the pitch is completely different depending on where you play and the philosophies of football, of course. I thought West Ham yesterday didn't leave any space at all. In the areas where Donny likes to work, which made it difficult for him to find the space. And I also think in the occasions and the rare occasions that he did find the space, I don't think Matic and Fred took enough risks with their passing at all yesterday, especially in the first half. I think I saw a pass heat map where, like, literally the two midfield areas between Matic and Van de Beek was basically on fire, and Matic and Fred was on fire, and the rest around them was like it is outside now, full of snow and ice cold. It was absolutely ridiculous. I do think that Van der Beek benefits more when he plays with passers within a team that like to take risks. I also think that Van der Beek shows his class when he's able to play off of players around him, players who are willing to do a quick 1-2, maybe turn quickly and make a run in behind. I felt yesterday, especially in the first half, and this is nothing against Martial because the work he'd done coming and getting the ball was really good. Martial actually started to occupy more of the space that Donny van der Beek likes to occupy. So Donny ended up as the furthest player forward at times on the back of that defensive line. So I don't think he was helped by the system and the players around him. But here's what I do want to say. That United team thrives off of a number 10 that plays a free role, not a number 10 that is extremely disciplined. For instance, if you put a Mesut Ozil in at number 10 as an option instead of Fernandes, it won't work because Ozil's very much like Van der Beek. He likes to play between the lines. He likes to ghost out defenders. He likes to play quick football with players around him, keep it short, not be too expansive. Yesterday, we needed Donny van der Beek to come out and give another option and to have a look for some more killer balls and take a few more risks. I agree. He didn't do that. But I wouldn't say he'd done his job badly. I feel like he played his game and not enough players around him really have that. Does it make sense? Have that connection with him yet? Didn't look for him enough. Again, it's one of those age-old things. If you watch his movement, he didn't stop moving the whole game. It wasn't a lack of trying. He didn't stop moving. But the space wasn't there.
I think with Donny, you also have to consider that he hasn't played a lot of games this season, and when you look at a performance last night that I'm critical of, I also expect that. I didn't expect him to start last night and to hit the ground running and to have an amazing performance because that would be a tad unrealistic. He hasn't played a lot of football. He got substituted last night before the board went up. The cameras focused on him, and he looked like someone who kind of knew he was coming off, and that's not nice seeing that. Because that's someone whose confidence is shattered. Now, that is not to suggest, and seriously, people need to come off the bandwagon of hunting Solskjaer over this. That's not to suggest that Solskjaer is being nasty to him or isn't being fair to him. Solskjaer, like I said, has to win football matches. Donny van der Beek will get opportunities, but he's being eased in. And what I seen last night backs up why I think Solskjaer is not playing him every week just yet.
Yeah, I think you. It's like we even planned the show here, Dale. You moved on to the next tweet perfectly there. Again, here when Aidan tweeted saying that the way that Van der Beek looked over to the subs, knowing he was coming off, broke my heart. We just knew it was going to happen, didn't we? Because we needed that player to come in, and that player's not Donny van der Beek. But as you said there, and just going back to Alexei's tweet, where he was talking about Fabinho, Cancelo, and Fernan Torres. Do you think we see the best of Van der Beek next year?
Too early to say, Ben. Like I said, from what I've seen so far, I've yet to be convinced. He's brought a lot of promise with his performances. Like I said, he's technically gifted. I can see he's a very, very good footballer. But it's hard to have that prediction when I've yet to see whether he's up to the pace of the English game. You mentioned how West Ham, which is set up, kind of closed out Donny van der Beek last night. I think that kind of backs up what I'm saying. Is teams can't set up like that and completely wipe out a player. That's why that player can't start that match. You know, Donny van der Beek then has to come out of his comfort zone, which will take time, and then find ways where he can disrupt the opposition and change the game. The difference is, and it's unfair to compare him to Bruno Fernandes. That's not fair because Bruno Fernandes came to Manchester United and hit the ground running. He did it in such a way that shocked everyone. You know, he's beaten records now against some of the top players that have played in the Premier League. So it's unfair to compare Bruno Fernandes and Donny van der Beek. Donny van der Beek's his own player. And I hope we're sitting here next season, or maybe the season after, look at Fred, and we're talking about Donny van der Beek and having a positive influence in this Man United team. But now, it's not going to happen.
I tweeted that. I think the problem is now is that we've got Bruno Fernandes. We are spoilt when it comes to how we expect a number 10 to work. And a disciplined player like Donny van der Beek, for me, even needs to work a bit further backwards to have that role as an 8 next to a McTominay or a Matic or a Fred, and or potentially only a Fred, because you're also not going to get that massive work rate when it comes to tracking back, tackling, etc. from van der Beek. Or he needs to play in that 10 around more creative players who are going to take a risk. Someone like Mata, who is fantastically bounced off when they've played together. Paul Pogba, another one. Bruno, they've played well together. So we'll have to wait and see. Fingers crossed we get to see him in a full flourishing United team soon to get the best out of him. Just one final one, Dale, something that was really overlooked yesterday. Marshall and Rashford reached 250 appearances for the club. Young lads, the future's bright. Just give us a bit of an overview on what you expect from them both over the next 250 appearances to get them to 500.
Well, I think one of them will get to 500. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure we'll see Anthony Martial make 500 Manchester United appearances, but that's just a prediction. That's not anything I know. But Rashford, I think, is staying around for the long haul. He's a Manchester boy, part of the academy. And I hope he can reach that potential that we know he can, because he's going through a tough spell at the moment. Both players need goals. They're not getting them at the moment, not getting enough. But Rashford, I still have a lot of promise for. I still hope Martial comes good, but I think he could be running out of time.
Perfect, mate. That was another good one. Any final thoughts on yesterday's game?
No, I think we nailed it at the start. As we said, that it was a dull game. But Manchester United got the job done. And it probably played into our hands that David Moyes was up to his old tricks as a dinosaur.
We've got Bournemouth, haven't we, next round at home? So hopefully we can see it through to another semi-final. Do you fancy us to go to that next stage? Do you fancy us to win this?
Yeah, look, Manchester United need to be aiming to win the FA Cup. 100%. And that's my main objective this season now. I think we're in a very good position in the league. We should be aiming high, but I think for the FA Cup would be the icing on the cake as well.
Dale, always a pleasure to spend a Wednesday with you. We'll be back next Wednesday as well, with a special guest this time as well, which we're going to talk about later. Make sure you subscribe to your All for United YouTube channel. Come on, let's get those subscribers up. Hit a like on this video, youtube.com/All for United if you're listening or watching on any different platform. Come over and join our massive Red community. And of course, if you want to listen back to any of the United Daily episodes on your podcast platform of choice, just search All for United Daily on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. I don't know what you use. Just go and hit us up on there. For now, stay safe, and we'll be back tomorrow with Neil and Barry as we get the old blokes' opinions on the biggest United talking points. It was a fantastic show last week. So join us tomorrow. Speak to you guys soon. Ciao for now.